Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in history when everything changes, not gradually, not predictably, but suddenly, like an earthquake that shakes the very foundation we stand on. The systems we relied on, the structures we thought were unshakable, begin to crack. And in that moment, we realize something. The world doesn't reward those who wait for things to settle. It rewards those who are prepared when the shaking begins. We've seen it before. Industries collapse. Economies shift overnight. Technology disrupts the status quo. The people who thrive are not necessarily the smartest, the wealthiest, or the most experienced. They are the ones who adapt, the ones who have built their foundation on something stronger than circumstances. The problem is, most people are reactive. They wait, they hold on, hoping things will return to normal, but there is no normal, not anymore. The great shaking doesn't come with a warning. It doesn't ask for permission. It simply arrives. And at that moment, two types of people emerge: those who panic and those who rise. So what makes the difference? It's not luck. It's not talent. It's preparation. Not the kind of preparation that stockpiles resources out of fear, but the kind that builds resilience. The kind that says, no matter what comes, I will stand. Because those who endure are not those who prepared for one specific challenge, but those who trained themselves to be adaptable in the face of any challenge. This is why leadership is so critical. A leader's job is not to predict the storm, but to prepare people to navigate through it. It is to instill confidence not in the illusion of stability, but in the ability to move forward despite uncertainty. The strongest teams, the strongest businesses, the strongest individuals, they don't crumble when the shaking starts. They stand because they built something that wasn't dependent on external stability. They built trust. They built vision. They built purpose. Fear makes people freeze. It makes them cling to the past. But courage comes from knowing that no matter how big the shift, no matter how unpredictable the road ahead, you are ready. Not because you know what's coming, but because you know who you are when it comes. Change is inevitable, adaptation is a choice. The world doesn't wait for us to catch up. Those who thrive are not the ones who resist change, but the ones who embrace and adapt to it. Leadership is about stability in uncertainty. A leader's role is not to predict the storm, but to prepare people to navigate through it with confidence and resilience. Fear freezes, purpose propels. In times of uncertainty, fear causes paralysis, but those with a strong sense of purpose move forward despite the unknown. Strength is built before the storm. The ability to withstand disruption isn't developed in the moment of crisis. It's cultivated through preparation, trust, and a solid foundation long before the shaking begins. The future belongs to the resilient. It's not the smartest or the strongest who survive. It's those who are flexible, adaptable, and courageous enough to lead through change. Everything around us is changing. Technology, industries, economies, and even the way we communicate evolve faster than ever before. Some people see change as a threat, something to resist, something to fear. Others see it as an opportunity. The difference isn't in the change itself, it's in the response. There are those who spend their time wishing things would go back to the way they were, holding on to systems, ideas, and methods that no longer serve them. They assume that if they wait long enough, things will settle and they can return to what feels familiar. But history shows us that waiting is never a strategy. The companies that refuse to innovate no longer exist. The leaders who resisted progress were left behind. The individuals who refused to grow found themselves stuck while the world moved forward without them. The ones who thrive in times of uncertainty are not the ones who predict the future, but the ones who prepare for it. They don't just react to change, they embrace it. They understand that adaptation is not about abandoning principles or losing identity. It's about finding new ways to stay relevant, new ways to lead, new ways to serve, and new ways to make an impact. The best leaders, the most successful people, the most resilient teams don't just survive disruption, they transform because of it. They see the world not as it was, but as it is becoming. They don't ask, how do we stop this? They ask, how do we grow from this? Because change is inevitable, but adaptation, that's a choice. Uncertainty is a constant. Markets shift, industries evolve, and the unexpected happens when we least anticipate it. In those moments, people don't look for someone with all the answers. They look for someone who can provide stability. Leadership is not about having a perfect plan for every scenario. It's about creating an environment where people feel confident moving forward even when the path is unclear. When uncertainty strikes, fear spreads quickly. People hesitate, second-guess themselves, and sometimes freeze altogether. A true leader doesn't eliminate uncertainty. They navigate it with clarity and composure. They don't pretend to know everything, but they do set a tone of steadiness. They acknowledge the challenges, but they refuse to let panic dictate their actions. Their confidence doesn't come from certainty, it comes from conviction. It comes from a deep belief in the team, the mission, and the ability to find a way forward together. The best leaders understand that stability is not about rigid control, it's about trust. It's about ensuring that no matter how unpredictable the circumstances, people know they are supported. They create a culture where adaptation is embraced, where setbacks are seen as lessons, and where progress continues despite obstacles. When people feel safe in uncertainty, they don't shut down, they innovate. They don't retreat, they step up. In moments of crisis, people remember how leaders made them feel. They don't remember the specifics of every decision, but they remember whether they felt secure, whether they felt heard, whether they felt empowered. That's what leadership is about. It's not about eliminating the unknown, it's about giving people the confidence to face it. Fear has a way of stopping us in our tracks. It makes us hesitate, overanalyze, and question whether we should even move forward at all. It thrives in uncertainty, magnifying doubts and creating barriers that may not even exist. It convinces us that the risks are too great, that failure is too costly, that we are not ready, and so we freeze, not because we are incapable, but because we let fear decide for us. But fear is not the enemy, it's a signal. It reminds us that something matters, that the stakes are high. The difference between those who stay stuck and those who push forward is not the absence of fear, it's the presence of purpose. When people have a deep sense of why they are doing something, fear loses its power. Purpose is what propels us forward when doubt tries to hold us back. It reminds us that the work we do, the impact we make, and the people we serve are bigger than the temporary discomfort of fear. The strongest leaders, the most resilient individuals, are not fearless. They simply refuse to let fear make their decisions. They feel the fear, acknowledge it, and then choose to act anyway. They remind themselves of the mission, the vision, the bigger picture. Purpose keeps them moving even when the path is uncertain, even when setbacks arise, even when the fear is real. The ones who make a difference in the world are not the ones who never felt fear. They are the ones who chose to move despite it. Fear freezes, purpose propels, and those who move with purpose inspire others to do the same. The unknown can be overwhelming. It raises questions without answers, presents challenges without clear solutions, and forces us to step into situations where there is no guarantee of success. In those moments, doubt creeps in. The temptation to retreat, to wait until things feel certain, is strong. But certainty is a luxury that rarely exists, and those who wait for it often find themselves standing still while the world moves forward. What separates those who advance from those who hesitate is not a perfect plan nor an absence of fear. It is a strong sense of purpose. When people are deeply connected to why they do what they do, they are willing to move forward even when the next step is unclear. Purpose gives them something bigger than their fear to focus on. It becomes the anchor that keeps them steady when everything else feels unpredictable. People who operate with purpose don't need guarantees to take action. They don't wait for the ideal conditions. They move because they believe in what they are doing, because the mission matters more than the discomfort of uncertainty. They trust that progress is made not by knowing every step in advance, but by having the conviction to take the first one. The unknown is not something to be avoided, it is something to be navigated. And those who are driven by purpose don't just survive uncertainty, they embrace it as part of the journey. They understand that forward movement is not about having all the answers, but about having the courage to keep going even when they don't. The future has never belonged to the ones who played it safe. It has always favored those who were willing to adapt, to endure, and to keep going when others stopped. Challenges will come, setbacks will happen, and nothing will ever go exactly as planned. The difference between those who thrive and those who fade away is not intelligence, talent, or luck. It is resilience. Resilient people don't break when faced with adversity. They bend, they adjust, they find a way. They understand that failure is not the opposite of success, but a necessary part of the journey. Every challenge they overcome strengthens them, preparing them for the next one. They don't waste time complaining about what went wrong. They focus on what can be done next. They refuse to let circumstances define them, because they know they are bigger than any obstacle they face. Resilient leaders build teams that don't crumble under pressure. They create cultures where setbacks are learning experiences, where problems are solved with creativity, and where progress is made even in uncertainty. They don't just survive difficult times, they use them to grow, to evolve, and to come back stronger. The future will always belong to those who refuse to give up, who embrace change rather than fear it, and who push forward even when the path is unclear. It belongs to those who rise after every fall, who see challenges as opportunities, and who understand that resilience is not just about enduring hardship, it is about using it as fuel to build something even greater. The world is shifting, and the shaking is inevitable. Change will come whether we are ready or not, and uncertainty will test our resolve. But in these moments, the future is not determined by those who wait for stability. It is shaped by those who rise to meet the challenge. Fear will try to hold us back, but purpose will push us forward. The strongest leaders are not the ones who avoid uncertainty, but the ones who bring stability in the midst of it. The ones who adapt, who embrace change, and who lead with conviction will always be the ones who thrive. Resilience is the difference between those who fade away and those who shape the future. The question is not whether challenges will come, the question is whether we will be ready, because the future does not belong to those who hesitate. It belongs to those who stand firm, move forward, and refuse to break when the shaking begins.